This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for August 3rd, 2 p.m. Here's the animation of our Tropical Storm Colin approaching the northeastern Leeward Islands. Now, the closest approach to Guadeloupe will be on Wednesday at 130 nautical miles northeast of Guadeloupe, and then the system continues to move off to the west-northwest, and on the 5th, it passes its closest approach to Puerto Rico at 166 nautical miles to the north-northeast of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And then, of course, if we continue on with the motion here, the system starts to turn more to the north-northwest, and the forecast calls for this to pass between Bermuda and the United States going into Sunday and Monday of next week. There's the closest approach to Bermuda as of the latest 5-day forecast from the National Hurricane Center, roughly 358 miles west-southwest of Bermuda. So it's good news. If this path holds out, it's not going to affect any land masses, and furthermore, this system might actually weaken, although some models indicate this could get up to hurricane status when it nears Bermuda, so we'll have to watch for that early next week. All right, let's go ahead and show you what some of the models are thinking here. The best performing model, according to the University of Central Florida, is the AEMI model, and let's go ahead and track that. And this model's only been off by about 11 miles so far since this system was Tropical Depression number 4. And you can see a very good clear track here to the west-northwest and northwest, finding the weakness in the ridge, and then heading back towards Bermuda. Actually, let me pan this out so you can see the whole course. And this heads up towards Bermuda at the end of the period. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. That's been the best performing model. Now, if we put all of the models on the map here and track every single one of them and kind of find out what the consensus of the models is, there it is. But there's a couple of models that are poking out here, and that is the LBAR and the GFDN model. Now, with the GFDN model is the Navy's version of the GFDL model, and the BAMD also kind of spits it out here and heads towards the Bahamas, but we're not putting too much stock in that. You know what the thinking is on these models is more than likely figuring this is going to be a low-level exposed circulation that might get caught up in the westerly flow down here and head towards the Florida and the Bahamas. We'll have to wait and see on that, but the majority of the models take this up and out into the open Atlantic. Some are taking it near Bermuda, so we'll have to wait and see. It's a little early to make a complete clear call for the United States, but it's looking good for the U.S. that we're not going to have to deal with this system. All right, here's the outlook from the National Hurricane Center. Of course, there's Colin right there. And we have a new area here of low probability for development near the coast of South America. And right now this is unorganized. It's kind of being inhibited, disrupted a little bit by this upper level low that's going to inevitably weaken Colin. But this should move off to the west. And in fact, the GFS model about 24 to 48 hours ago had a pretty intense system here going into the Gulf of Mexico. But it's backed off on that since, so we're not really expecting much out of this, but we'll have to keep an eye on this. The North American mesoscale takes this into Nicaragua and Honduras as a tropical storm, so we'll have to keep an eye on that, and that might develop down the road. All right, here's the relative vorticity in the Atlantic Ocean right now, and you can see obviously the yellow areas indicate rotation, and we have Colin right here, and we have this other area near the ABC Islands, and that's going to drift off to the west, so we'll watch this over the coming days. We have plenty of time to watch this. Nothing's going to sneak up on anybody. Here is the official forecast on Colin. I mean, again, Sunday morning, late morning, it's well southwest of Bermuda. This may shift off to the right. We'll have to keep an eye on that, but folks down in the Leeward Islands need to pay attention because this is cruising very quickly to the west, and it's not going to be long. Actually, tomorrow night that this will be approaching the northern Leeward Islands, so they might get some gusty rain out of this, gusty and windy weather as this passes off to the north. But any deviation could take it right in there as a tropical storm. Here's the GFS current map out in the Atlantic Basin, and notice we have a 1031 pressure Azores high out in here, and that's the steering mechanism for Colin pushing it off to the west. And high pressures are what steers tropical systems. Now, if we go out 48 hours from now, you'll see that high pressure weakens out here to 1026 millibars. That's the weakness that Colin's looking for and the models are indicating. that's going to turn this off to more to the northwest and then rotate around this high pressure ridge. And that's the weakness that's forecast to be there in 48 hours. So we'll have to see if that pans out. Here's the current steering flow. And again, you notice the reds and oranges here indicate a very fast forward speed of 25 to 30 miles an hour. And sometimes the center of circulation can outrun a developing tropical storm. And that is a possibility with Colin. There might not be much left of this by the time it gets near the Leeward Islands. And could never end up being a factor for Bermuda at all if this system continues to weaken. And that could happen with the fast forward speed. But it is expected to slow down here north of Puerto Rico. But there's a lot of dry air up in here as well. All right, let's take a look at some... well, first of all, I wanted to show you this. This is in the drop-down menu above the tracking chart at Hurricane City. Whenever there's an active system, we like to show all of the systems that developed in the same grid on the tracking map as the current system. So TD number 4 developed in grid 15 on our map here. And these are all the systems in history that developed in the same grid. Now, we narrow it down to the time of the year. The only two that stand out is 1903. We had a system here on August 6th, shot through the Caribbean and went into Mexico after cutting through the Yucatan. And then July 31st, we had Hurricane Dean out here that came northeast of the Leeward Islands and then went up and hit Bermuda and then headed up into the to Newfoundland. And that was back in 1989. And actually, there's no other systems that developed around this time of the year in this grid. So those are the only two. One went north and one went west. So there's not a whole lot of data to go by. Now here is the tropical Atlantic wind forecast from some of the better intensity models out there. There's only one model indicating that this could get up to Category 2 hurricane, possibly when it gets near Bermuda, and that is the IVCN model. The other models keep it pretty much under Category 1 strength. There's a couple that flirt with Cat 1, but most of them keep it strong tropical storm when it's up near Bermuda. All right, here's the dry air using the LSU water vapor image. And this is a pretty neat image because it kind of shows the dry air out there, the green patches. So let's take a look at that. Here is Colin right here, and look at the green dry air being sucked into the system. And it's coming in from the backside too. Plus we have this upper level low here that's dry air out in front of it. So this thing might be toast in about 48 hours. It's going to be very difficult for this to hold on to tropical storm status. All right, well that's it for now. We'll be back with another update tomorrow on this system in the evening. And we'll see if we have Colin left or if this back down to tropical depression status. That's it for now. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.